Jay Hiv, Stretford, Paddock, that's Joe Smith. Manchester United as part of a 9-goal thriller which saw Anthony Martial bag a brace and new signing Anthony score an absolute wonder goal. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, you've made it sound quite fun there. That's one of the weirdest I've ever felt at the end of a game.
Is it?
Because I felt so much worse at half-time than I do now, even though it's only 1 goal better off.
Yeah.
And because, and again, accuse me of toxic positivity.
Right, okay.
But I knew that City were better than us.
Yeah.
Right? They're almost certainly going to win the league this season. I don't really see who stops them.
Yeah.
I knew that United had defensive frailties.
Yep.
I knew that, like, on any given day, City could put a few past us.
Yeah.
But we've also scored 3 against Man City.
Yeah.
Martial's come back from injury and got 2 goals.
Yep.
And it's shit and it's awful and it's embarrassing. But it's not as 6-3 is, I think, 30% less embarrassing than 6-1. Maybe 50% less.
I think
like, it's a pummeling,
Yeah.
but it's not an absolute demolition the way it felt like it could be.
I understand what you're saying, and I get that because at half-time I was done. I was like, this is going to be horrible. This could be 7 or 8-0. This could be like one of those moments that you've spoken about forever. And don't get me wrong, it will be to a certain degree because obviously 2 City players have got hat-tricks. But, it could have been a lot worse. There was that fight. I said at half-time I want to see a fight in the second half, and I want us to go out there and win the second half, which we did. I know it's small mercies when you've just been done 6-3.
It was shit. Don't get me wrong.
One thing today has highlighted, this team so far this season, in different guises, has conceded a lot of goals. And that is an issue.
Yeah, it's a
we have
massive
conceded 6 goals against City, 4 goals against Brentford, 2 goals against Brighton. That isn't all right. That isn't something where you go, oh well, do you know what I mean? We can get through that. That is a problem that needs sorting, because when you leak goals the way that Manchester United have leaked goals this season, you are going to struggle to get into that top 4. You're going to struggle to get anywhere near it. And that is my worry, is that we're in a situation now where we've spent a lot of money in the summer. We've got these absolute dickhead owners who won't probably sanction any more money in January, even though we obviously need it to get where we should be. And they're going to spend money in fucking the summer, despite the fact that we're taking loads of dividends and wasting more money on fucking debt. Where we need more signings, I think, defensive signings, and maybe I'm not blaming De Gea for today, but maybe look at the goalkeeper and say, does he fit into the Ten Hag system as well?
Yeah, I don't think he does, unfortunately. I mean, we know that, but I personally, I wouldn't blame De Gea directly for any of the goals today. Really, I mean, the one from the corner, particularly sort of out. What's the word? A sort of confident kind of hands-on goalkeeper might have tried to come and claim that. But
I don't want to blame De Gea for this. No. I'm talking in the wider context.
No, but if you want to, let's get into sort of piece by piece through the team. If you look at De Gea, I think unfortunately he has changed the way we have to play in big games. Yeah. We saw it against Liverpool and it worked. We saw it against Arsenal, but he's not particularly trusted to play out from the back. So goal kicks are going long. Times when he should be trying to find a sort of a clip pass over a City player. Instead, he's going long. And Ten Hag has seemingly said, just hit it long, because I can't trust you to really play the way I want to play. So you have to sort of preface every performance with, this isn't 100% what Ten Hag wants, because one of the fundamental pieces of that team cannot do what Ten Hag wants him to do. So I'm not blaming him directly for the goals today, and I'm not even saying that the result is his fault at all, because I don't think De Gea had a particularly bad game. But you have to remember that there is a big portion of this team, or a big portion of the way Ten Hag wants to play, that is immediately cut off because De Gea can't be trusted to play out from the back. Fair enough. I thought Dalot getting a booking 90 seconds into the game doesn't help. Malacia getting booked 14 minutes or whatever it was into the game.
It was interesting, Malacia, wasn't it? Because he's been quite a likeable player for this team. He's come in, he's been part of this 4-game winning run, and he's played well in those games. But against Arsenal, we did see that he does have defensive frailties. Saka had the beating of him a few times, but he makes up for it with his energy and his effort. Today he got caught out a couple of times. Obviously gets subbed at half time, which doesn't seem like he was injured. It seemed like a tactical.
He was poor today.
So that I said it on the journal. What's wrong? That shows you that he's still got some way to go. I'm not saying he's not good enough, and I think if he progresses the way that we hope he can, then there's a player there. But you look at him, you think, okay, there's still sort of areas of his game to work on. Yeah. Dalot, we know, like we've mentioned, I like Diogo Dalot, but there's still areas of his game he needs to improve on. And Varane injuries, that's the thing with Varane at United, and those injuries today, for me, probably cost us at least one goal, if not two.
It cost us 2 goals.
Because it's the corner, isn't it, when he's not on the pitch.
Not on the pitch for the corner that Haaland scores.
And then he's not fit enough to get back to cut out the cross for Haaland's second.
And again, like I said, it's not really his fault he's injured, but he's injured a lot.
Well, I used to say about Paul Pogba, you know, my biggest gripe with Pogba, I know a lot of people had loads of issues with Pogba, and I used to say my issue isn't, you know, some of the nonsense that people used to lose their mind over. I thought he was a good player. My issue was he missed too many games, too many important games. And it's not just missing games against the likes of Villa and Brighton and Bournemouth or whatever. It's when you've got your big games, you need your big players. And that was what used to sort of get to me about Pogba. He missed chunks of the season, all these big games. Varane had a good run so far of games. Now he looks like he's injured again. Well, he certainly went off today. Hopefully it's not too long term. That is something that, you know, the manager has to work out a sort of a solution to.
Yeah.
And then you go in front of the defence, you go, okay, midfield-wise, Eriksen, his worst game in United shirt. I think maybe argue Brentford was just as bad, if not, you know, up there. But certainly one of his worst performances, especially considering the high standards he's set. I personally thought Bruno did okay today. You may disagree and get into that. McTominay, again, having a good season, had a good spell. Not really a good game today for me. Just got bypassed a little bit too easily in midfield, and hence the reason he got subbed.
Yeah.
So
McTominay, just the game completely passed him by, didn't it? As you've sort of alluded to there. Eriksen was really poor, and I think that again, like, there's a difference between saying someone had a bad game, criticising how someone played, or criticising the tactics or whatever, and saying that therefore they're not good enough.
Yeah.
Eriksen gave the ball away too often. He didn't use his brain, and there was a few, you know, was it City's second or third goal? I think it was the third goal, or maybe even the fourth goal. But like Kevin De Bruyne runs past Christian Eriksen in the middle of the pitch. He doesn't go for the tactical foul. He chases him for 20 yards. Then De Bruyne passes the ball, and after he's passed it, Eriksen takes him out.
Yeah,
I think you've got to do that when he's on the ball.
That was really annoying.
And you think like that's just a little bit of savviness, a little bit of sort of match.
There was a couple of them. There was
play to it.
There was that one with Eriksen where he could have took De Bruyne out. There was the one for the fifth goal, I think it was, where De Bruyne, he's just on the touchline, and I'm thinking to Fred, just to kick him out. Take the yellow if you take a yellow. But he gets away, and they were away, and he did, and he scored. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it's little things like that. Like, they used to have Fernandinho for him. He was the master at tactical fouling. And sometimes you have to take that yellow. Just stop that goal. Do you know what I mean? And we didn't do enough. I think this telly's going to turn off in a minute. Have we got some quotes there? Do you want to get into them, Joe? Is that what that's on there for?
Yeah, so Eriksen...
Can we move that up a bit so Joe can read it? A couple of quotes
from Eriksen here. If we can sort that out at all.
Scroll that up
on this screen, there's some quotes here. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Witterbird with the super chat says, calm down, it was City. This isn't last season. Once Varane was off, it was hope the best as Connect 4 was the challenge by the blue. I don't know what that means, but always a red. Next match. There you go.
Yeah, you've got some Eriksen quotes there. I'll read them out for you. You always want to beat the rivals and win the derbies. It is something we need to do better next time. As a group, everyone will be looking at themselves. We will have a meeting with the manager tomorrow to go through everything that went wrong today. Eriksen also said, we have to take this as a tough defeat, and it is about getting back up and show character. We need to do that. And he says the main focus from this game should be on ourselves, and there are many things we have to change. It was far from acceptable. And also, he's also said, he's obviously done the post-match rounds, it came very heavy. Everyone feels it as a very bad day at the office. We started on the wrong foot, and they had a lot of chances from kickoff. We have to blame ourselves. I like that. Hold your hands up. Don't try and sugarcoat it. Don't try and hide. You know, just sort of be honest about it. It isn't good enough, and it is frustrating. But I need more than words. We had words last time we got beat off City at the Etihad. We needed to see some actions. The good thing about this result, and probably the only good thing you can take about it from it, other than obviously Martial and Anthony's goals, we have got 8 more games this month. So you've got now the games coming thick and fast. Start getting back to winning ways, you know, win your Europa League games, win your league games, and this won't become a distant memory, but you can move on from it.
Just moving through the team then, I think Bruno wasn't his best day, but I don't think
he wasn't as bad as his teammates.
No.
I thought he at least, some of his passing in the first half, he was trying to make things happen, almost sort of came off. He puts a shift in all the time, especially towards later on in the game where he was sort of getting amongst it. Lacking a little bit of quality at times, but on the whole, I thought where most of his teammates were like 3s, he was probably a 6.
Yeah. That front 3 in the first half were as anonymous, as poor as inconsistent, almost fearful and timid as I've seen from United this season. I think even more than the Brentford game, where every time Rashford, Sancho, Anthony in the first half, I thought Anthony was good in the second half. But in the first half, every time those three got the ball, it was a wayward pass, a bad touch, a shot that was taken too early. Just like they were so scared of City. We looked so scared of City in the first half, so worried that the ball wouldn't stick with them. They couldn't keep the ball. They couldn't create anything between them. Even the sort of half chances and the good positions we got in, it was a bobbly touch from Rashford or Sancho trying to do too much with it. It was just awful from them in the first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You're right, and it was a shame because Marcus Rashford obviously has won this Player of the Month award for September. Comes back into the team after he's had a layout. Didn't have much, much training, but it was too much for him. He just wasn't at the races at all. It was poor and was rightly subbed. Sancho, I thought was one of his worst games in a United shirt. Didn't really get hold of the ball when it was played to him. A couple of glimpses of what he's capable of, but again, not very good. Anthony in the first half wasn't great. In the second half, obviously made up for it, not just with his goal, but I thought he looked lively.
He did. Great touch as well for his goal.
And he wanted the ball. And with Marcus and Jadon Sancho in the first, it was like, I'm not seeing that hunger there, that desire. But we saw that from Anthony. And listen, Martial coming on. This is a player who scored, one Premier League goal last season, one goal in the Europa League for Sevilla, I think, last season. We saw what he did in pre-season. It's like, can he be relied upon? Good 45 minutes against the Scousers, comes on for a little cameo that's probably going to do him and this team the world of good, because it shows, you know what, there's still a player there. And I think that, for me, he has to start in the next league game.
Yeah. Just a sort of a separate point that I don't really expect you to have an answer to, but just to discuss, what is it about United where we are so capable of being battered at the moment? For the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, where it feels like on any given day, against any given opposition, we could concede 4. We could concede 5. Like, we conceded 4 to Watford last season, 4 to Leicester, 4 to Brighton,
City,
4 to City, 5 to Liverpool, 4 to Liverpool. We've conceded 4 to Brentford this season. We've conceded 6 to Liverpool this season. What is that? Because there were times when, even when we were poor, and we weren't winning trophies, where you never thought this would happen. I know the 6-1 to Tottenham was an example, but we were down to 10 men, but maybe that was the start of it. I don't know what it is. Why are we so capable of capitulating and conceding so many goals on any given day? What is that? I
think part of it is just a little bit more, almost like using that experience you've got. You need someone who's going to do that, and we didn't have that. In all those games, you go, right, okay, when you concede early, right, just take the sting out of the game. Just keep possession for a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Don't be so gung-ho with your attacks or whatever. Just, get hold of the ball and just sort of pass it about a little bit. There was none of that. It's like we're panicking with it. No one wants it. No one wants to take any responsibility. Just as soon as someone gets it, they're giving it away straight away, regardless of whether it's a good pass or not.
There was a point in the first half where David De Gea was having to tell Christian Eriksen to run. There was a gap between 2 City players, and Eriksen was behind the City player, and De Gea was going, like, get in the gap because I want to pass it to you. Even Eriksen, who has been the best example this season of showing for the ball, willing to take the ball in difficult areas, willing to put that pressure on his back and still manage to pull off great things. It looked as though even he was slightly scared, slightly like you're saying there. Just pass it to someone else.
Yeah.
I'll get the ball. I'll just give it to someone else. I'll get the ball. I'll just boot it forward. Try and play that world-class ball in behind, because really doing the right thing, which is easier, but then you get less credit for, is too scary. I'd rather go for the world-class pass, where if it doesn't come off, I took a risk, and if it does, you're man of the match. Instead of going for what the manager's told you to do, which is that 10-yard pass there through the lines, which is scary, but you should be able to make it. It's like we're too nervous to do that. We're too nervous to do the right thing, so we're trying to do the impossible thing. It's
also interesting that you mentioned, all those games you've mentioned, we've had different players on the pitch.
Yeah.
Maguire started against Brentford, McTominay didn't. Now you look at the 6-3 here, where you've got arguably your best team.
The team that's just won basically the same team that's won 4 games in a row.
Luke Shaw started against Liverpool when we got battered, and some of those other games we mentioned, he didn't start today, although he didn't exactly cover himself in glory defensive when he came on. But it's like whoever plays at the moment, there seems to be this issue. And, there isn't for me a common denominator where you go, oh, well, it's all Maguire or it's all De Gea or it's all Martinez or it just seems to be this thing of when we concede, early doors especially, we don't know how to react. We don't have that confidence or even, I use the term experience, but we've got experienced players, but they don't seem to be able to use that experience to go, right, this is when we need to shut up shop for 10 minutes and just take this thing out of the game. This is when we need to attack. And it's almost like everyone panics and it just reverberates through the entire team. And you've already got a goalkeeper. I don't want to keep going back to De Gea, but he has played. I think he's the only one out of everyone I mentioned who played in all these games. You've got a goalkeeper who can be a bit nervy anyway. So he needs someone to show for him. He needs someone to help him out. And if you haven't got that, it's a recipe for disaster. And I think that is the biggest sort of issue that Eric Ten Hag's got to sort of solve. Because if you're a team now and you play Manchester United, you got to be thinking, get that early goal, get at him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They don't like it when you get at him. And if you can do that, if you just get one goal early doors, it'll lead to more.
Probably get a draw.
Yeah, and United used to be opposite of that. I remember I used to go to Old Trafford under Fergie. And not all the time, but most of the time, teams would score against Shirley, and you'd think you shouldn't have done that because now you've annoyed us.
Too soon.
Yeah,
and that was the same.
And was it West Ham where we beat them 7-1 and they scored the first goal? Do you know what I mean? Like that was the sort of stuff that went on, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like it's like wow, just batter teams and they get an early goal and you'd think right, that's it now, and everyone would be up for it, crown everything. Now teams score against you, like this is going to be another long day at the office. I know. We need to get that mentality shifted, and I think Eric Ten Hag's the right man to do it.
Yeah. Do you know like? In like that sort of typical stereotype schoolyard bully where you see the story of the wimpy kid getting hit and then all of a sudden the parent goes, hit him first next time. And and then the bully goes, oh, I'm sorry, that's United. Yeah. We turn up with our chest out, big Man United with badge on the chest, 20 league titles, all that. Yeah. If you hit us first, we shit it. Yeah. And obviously Man City are another level to, Brentford or whatever because they are. But even the likes of Brentford and Brighton, if you get the first goal against United, we go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was only messing. I didn't mean to fight it." Like that's the sort of personality and persona that the club's got at the moment.
Do you know what though? As well, like we've sort of got, and I've been guilty of it as anyone, carried away a little bit with this run. And you go, Eric Ten Hag's come in. All his signings are mint. He's getting the best out of Rashford. He's getting the best out of McTominay. He's getting the best out of De Gea. Everything's rosy, and it ain't. This, what he inherited and where we are and the distance between us and some of the other top teams was massive, especially between us and City, which eventually is where we want to be overtaking them. And it ain't going to be fixed in one summer and 5 or 6 Premier League games. It took Fergie years to get it right. Do you know what I mean? And he flattered to the season a couple of times, Fergie. I think we finished second in his first full season. Then we were 11th. Then we were 13th. But we won the FA Cup. You know what I mean? It was a bit of a process. And he shifted on some big names. Likes of Whiteside, likes of McGrath. Do you know what I mean? There was players there he went, right, you know what, mainly for off-the-field stuff. But it took a while. And I think it's going to take Ten Hag a little while. He ain't going to be able to sort this out in a few months. And we as fans, we've got to be patient. And that doesn't mean you can't question Ten Hag. You can question his tactics. You can criticise him when he needs it. But I think you have to show faith in this manager. Because for me, he's the right man for the job. And I think that given the right amount of time and the right backing, by them fucking clowns in the boardroom, it'll come good.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. AAO, who's been a member for 22 months,
yes,
thank you very much, mate, says, credit to the subs for still putting in an effort and saving face a little bit. Would have been easier to toss it off. Yeah, I agree. The likes of Martial coming on, especially.
He looks like as good as he's ever looked for us. Yeah. I know it's only a cameo. I just want to get in some of the Ten Hag quotes because they're doing the rounds, obviously spoken after the game. He says, if you don't fight, which we didn't, you are going to have a problem versus City. This is different to Brentford. That day we didn't run. Today we wanted to run, but there was a lack of belief. Again,
lack of belief. Yeah,
perfect. He also said, I'm surprised why we didn't bring it on the pitch. I've seen a different team spirit and we did not look convinced. I have to talk to my players and find out why. Again, he's right.
I mean, not like a, I saw that, but I think I said that before because it was pretty obvious. We looked scared. We looked like we didn't think we could win. That's what I was saying.
100%. He also says, I will show the team tomorrow. We could have been on the front foot. In the first goal, we won the ball and could have created a chance and gave it away. That is unacceptable. Ten Hag also goes on to say, this is a process. When you are not concentrated against City, you get hammered. That is what happened. You cause your own problems. You get hammered. Yep. I mean, I agree with all that. And I think it was obvious to see these aren't bad players. These aren't just, and this isn't a City team that's unbeatable. I know they've not lost this season, but you can at least get at them. You can score goals. We did that. And they've struggled at times, and they were missing some key players today, but we didn't exploit that, and we were poor. Yeah. It wasn't a case of United went out there and every player played as well as they can, and City were just better than us. It was you had 8 or 9 players who were fucking terrible today.
Yeah,
you did. Do you know what I mean? You can't get away with that against Manchester City. You can't get away with that against anyone, let alone Manchester City. And you had too many players that just they got subbed for a reason. There's only Varane, I think, who was injured. All the other substitutions were tactical because the players weren't playing well enough.
Yeah. Martian with the super chat says this City side will probably rip apart any Premier League team this season. No contest. Just wish our key players hadn't had such a bad game in the first half. One thing I think that needs to be said actually is you could maybe point to him for the 6th goal or the 5th goal, whatever it was. Martinez had a good game today. I thought it was such a big build-up of like Haaland to dominate Martinez. That didn't happen, did it? Martinez had a decent-ish game.
It wasn't.
To
wasn't
conceded
really
6. It wasn't like a.
It wasn't. There's only the last one.
Yeah.
There might have been one where he played someone onside. I can't remember what. I'm reaching. The last one he wasn't close enough to Haaland. There's no disputing that. But it wasn't his fault. We lost 6-3.
No.
I think you look at Varane, that injury fucked it for us.
That's going to be a shame. Let's see. Hopefully it's just a twisted ankle, maybe a week or 2.
And Malacia, the warning signs were there against Arsenal.
Yeah.
That he's still got a little bit of a level to go to.
He's got a big jump he needs to take in terms of his technical ability.
Yeah.
I think his willingness and his fight and his sort of innate ability of his tackling and his movement and his running kept him in was a real breath of fresh air compared to this sort of opposite where Luke Shaw is technically very good on the ball, can put a great cross in, but doesn't want to or is unable to do all the things that Malacia is good at.
Again, playing everyone on side and putting your hand up. And you pointed out is a great shout. If that's not, if that ball gets spilled by De Gea or gets parried, I should say, Haaland's in there because fucking Luke Shaw, out of everyone in defence, has played everyone on side and then not reacted. He's just stood with his hands up like fucking, what's his name? Fabian Barthez against Di Canio. He's not reacting. And Martinez and everyone at least is like, they're almost shouting and running.
Yeah.
To try and just make sure. If that ball comes out, Haaland's got to tap in because Luke Shaw's just left him. He's also
Luke
playing
Shaw.
everyone on side.
I know.
Again, I'm sick of seeing Luke Shaw with his hands up or his arms out. Come on, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's got to realise, he's got to know, these next 6 weeks or whatever are crucial for him if he wants to get on that plane to go to Qatar. Yeah. You think he'd give a shit about that?
Yinka with the super chat says, "Hey Jay, the first half was a shambles. Second half showed a better United level. We went down fighting. City and Haaland are just overpowered. I believe in Ten Hag."
Yeah, I mean, there's no disputing that City are fucking different level. They're probably going to win the lot. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got a player in Ireland. I think it was Steve before the game said the 1-0 up already, and he's right. For every game, they've already got a 1-0 start. It's like us with Rude back in the day. You 1-0 up with Ireland. He scores every game, if at least one goal. So there is that element. And also, you've got other players like Phil Foden, like Kevin De Bruyne, like some on the bench. Mahrez and people aren't coming off the fucking bench. Do you know what I mean? It's like Jesus left City and gone to Arsenal, become their best player. City haven't even missed him. No. He wouldn't even be getting off the bench at the minute for them. So, do you know what I mean? That just shows the level they're at. And it pains me to say it, because I fucking hate City. I get no pleasure from it, but we've got to be realistic. And that is a very, very good City team. The issue is, it came up against, in the first half anyway, a very poor United team.
Yeah. Robert Wilhelm says, "I think this performance was better than the 2-0 last season. We played some quality football and showed fight in the second half." I'll be honest, I know the goal gap is one bigger, and we've obviously conceded 4 more goals. But I don't feel quite as demoralised as I did after the 2-0 at Old Trafford. Do you know where they literally, it was like watching someone playing against a child, and they were like, just don't score anymore because it's a bit, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
At least with this, they went for it the whole game. We went for it the whole game. It wasn't quite as taking pity on us as it was in that game at Old Trafford last season, was it?
No, it wasn't. And I said before the game, the worst sort of scenario you could hope for or dread was like a training game for him. Yeah. Like a pat, like you say, patting on the head.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Next time.
Yeah, bless you. And that game at Old Trafford against City, not long after the 5-0 defeat to Liverpool, it felt like that. 2-0 at half-time, and then that was the end of that. And, they just treated it like a training exercise. We made a little bit of a fight of it today. Not enough, obviously, because by the time we got our acts together, the game was already lost. But there was some sort of crumbs of comfort in the sense that we went for it, we battled, we made them work at the end as well, just to sort of keep the scoreline from getting anywhere near sort of worrying for them. I think had we had another 5 minutes, or maybe another 10 minutes. I think 5 minutes is a bit ambitious. Another 10 minutes, maybe we could have got another one and made at least ask the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, make him start thinking, fucking hell, they could get back into this. The problem was we gave ourselves far too much to do, far too late on. So we were never going to get a draw out of the game. But we did restore a bit of pride. I feel like that. And yes, it's 2-bit because we've just been beaten 6-3 off City. And that's, you know, clutching at straws and all the rest of it. But that's the least you can ask for from this United team, and that's what they give us.
Yeah. My amateur says, to answer Joe's question, which was the one about why are we so capable of getting battered on any given game, they say, because we are always in a transition period, we don't have the stability, and the players are always learning new tactics instead of evolving what they already know. And there's a point here from Jack Surridge as well in the comments who says they've had 5 years and we've had 8 weeks. And there is going to be some of it. Some of it is that. Like, I think Arsenal are a decent example. I mean, as much as I don't think Arsenal will win the league, I think, you know, Europe will trip them up massively. They are top of the league at the moment, so you can, you know, say they've done pretty well to start the season. Their team, player for player, I believe is worse than Man United's. I think quite comfortably worse than Man United's, actually. And yet, because they are 3 years into a system, they are performing at a level where they're kind of outplaying the sum of their parts, whereas United aren't yet, because we are, like I said, 8 weeks into a system. And that is going to get, you know, the cracks are going to be shown in that transition occasionally against the best teams.
You're right as well. Obvious. And let's not forget, you know, it's not even just a case of we've made a load of signings this summer. Some of those signings were made late on as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Some of them haven't had a full pre-season with Manchester United.
Not started a game in the league for Man United.
Anthony, you know, came in after the season had kicked off. So it's not like these are players who've had even a full summer. They haven't. And you look at Arsenal, you're right. Pep's a good example because obviously he's absolutely smashing it at City, unfortunately. But he came in, that first season, I think they finished third. They lost a few games, lost 4-0 away at Goodison. He changed goalkeepers twice. He brought in Claudio Bravo and then got rid of him and brought in Edison. He made, you know, some sort of changes and then made changes on his changes and found his feet. And obviously he got it right in a big way. Yeah. But that first season, they didn't win anything. They finished third. People going, is he all he's cracked up a bit? Yeah. You know, but he was laying the groundwork. And that's what he needs to do. And that's what Eric Ten Hag's got to do. We've just got to give him, we said it, me and you said it in the summer. Not this, you don't get a season off, but almost let Eric Ten Hag do what he needs to do this season. Don't judge him after this season. Yeah. If United finish 6th this season, you might go, well, what was a waste of time. We bought all these players, we've got a new manager, and we're still fucking shit. But he might be laying that groundwork, because that's what Fergie did. Fergie laid the groundwork for future success when he came in his first season.
It's not just, not to knock your point there, but I've seen people in the past say it's not the 1980s anymore. But we still see that. You still see players and managers, take 2 or 3 years to get in. Klopp is a perfect example.
Where did they finish in his first season? Where did they finish in his second? Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember Liverpool fans don't want to admit it, but I remember they lost all those finals under him until they got to the Champions League final.
He'd lost 9 finals in a row.
Lost the Europa League final, lost the League Cup final, and then they finished fucking 4th and 6th and all that shit. And I remember Liverpool fans going, is he this guy really? Is he? Then they get to the Champions League final and it gives him that belief. But it took him 3 years to get going. Yeah. Because he was, again, he's overhauling the squad. By the time they won the league title, there's only Jordan Henderson and Roberto Firmino left from that squad that he inherited.
I genuinely think we've finally got a manager that if you give him 3 years, we will be better at the end of it than at any other point in that 3 years. Yeah. Like, Ole was phenomenal for the first 10 games, then a bit of a blip, then a good season, then a bit of a... it sort of went up and down,
it was feast and famine,
and then it died off at the end. Jose Mourinho, shocking first season, or... decent first season, very good second season, dead after that. Yeah. I genuinely think that Ten Hag is the sort of manager with the sort of tactics where we will be better in 3 years than we are now. And I think we'll constantly get better over those seasons as well. Adarsh with a super chat says, I'm here in Australia. 3 goals scored will be good enough to calm me down to sleep tonight. Brian Kevill says, we battled pride. What the hell are you talking about, Jay? We were smashed apart.
The second half. I just said that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? At half-time, I said I want us to go out there, win the second half and restore some pride. And we did that. Were we going to win this fucking game at half-time when we're 4-0 down? No. There was not a fucking chance of that happening. But we at least go out there and show a bit of fight, restore some pride. And to a certain degree, we did that. And I said it, before. There's nothing great about getting beat 6-3 off City, but I wanted to see some fight and I wanted to see some fucking effort from the players. In the second half, we did that. We've just got to see it from the start of the games, not from half-time.
Yeah. Should we call it a day there?
Yeah, let's call it a day. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Put a subscribe link in the chat, please. If you're not doing, subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers by Christmas. With your support, we can do it. We've had great support since we took over the channel 2 and a bit seasons ago, and we really do appreciate it. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't done as well, give the video a like. We'll be back with a bit later on. We're going to have some more post-match reaction. We're going to be hearing from Stephen Howson, of course. He's got loads to say, as you would expect. We'll also be back in the morning with the news, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You can find Joe Smith alongside Joe McGrath over on the Sloppy Joe's podcast. Go and check them guys out. And like I said earlier, make sure you subscribe to Stretford Paddock. Not a great day at the office for Manchester United by any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully we can take a little bit of comfort from the fact we showed a bit of fight at the end. Thanks for watching.